Charm isn't just about being nice. It's about influence. We live in a world full of noise, where people constantly compete for attention, validation, and recognition. But amidst all this chaos, only a few truly know how to command a room. And they don't do it by being the loudest or the most extroverted. They do it by making others feel special. Think about the people you naturally gravitate towards. It's not just because they're friendly or agreeable. It's because, in their presence, you feel valued, heard, and seen. There's a magnetic quality about them, a subtle yet undeniable presence that draws people in. But here's the truth: being likable isn't enough. The most unforgettable people aren't those who blend into the background with empty politeness. They're the ones who leave a lasting impression, the ones who make you feel uniquely important. And the secret to this? Charm that is intentional, not accidental. This isn't about being manipulative. Stoicism teaches us that true influence comes from understanding human nature, mastering self-control, and using that knowledge to create genuine, meaningful connections. Stoic philosophy isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about directing them wisely, knowing when to speak, when to listen, and how to make others feel valued, without losing yourself in the process. Most people believe charm is something you're born with, a natural talent reserved for a lucky few. But that's a myth. Charm is a skill, one that can be learned, refined, and mastered. And here's the best part: it's not about faking anything. Even the most authentic charm is deliberate. The world's most charismatic people, whether in leadership, relationships, or social settings, understand the delicate balance between warmth and control. They know making others feel important isn't about constant praise or forced friendliness. It's about subtle but powerful actions that reinforce a sense of value and belonging. The following 7 habits are the foundation of charm. Each one is simple, yet powerful, backed by psychology, social influence, and timeless Stoic wisdom. These principles will transform the way people perceive you and make your relationships significantly more meaningful. Let's dive in. A name is more than just a word. It is a core part of a person's identity. Psychologists call this the cocktail party effect. Even in a crowded, noisy room, your brain instantly tunes in when you hear your own name. This is why when someone uses your name in conversation, you instinctively feel recognized, valued. But here is the catch: there is a fine line between genuine recognition and manipulative overuse. Many self-help books and sales techniques suggest using a person's name frequently to build rapport. But let's be honest, when someone says your name in every other sentence, it feels unnatural, forced, and insincere. If you have ever been in a conversation where someone repeatedly drops your name, that is a great point, John. I totally agree, John. What do you think about this, John? You know how unnatural it sounds. Rather than making the interaction more personal, it has the opposite effect. It starts to feel like a sales script, not a real conversation. And the moment someone senses that they are being worked, their trust in you drops. Rather than overusing names, make each use count by pairing it with a meaningful moment. Pair it with a compliment. That is a great insight, Mark. I never thought about it that way. Lisa, you have a unique way of looking at things. I really appreciate that. Use it to make a serious point, David. This is something I really want you to remember, Anna. I mean this. Your work has made a real impact. Use it to re-engage someone in a conversation, Jack. What is your take on this, Emily? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. By reserving their name for key moments, you create a natural rhythm in conversation. Instead of tuning it out due to overuse, their attention sharpens when they hear their name because it actually means something. The power of names in high-stakes environments, in professional settings, business meetings, networking events, and negotiations. Knowing when and how to use someone's name can be an underrated power move. Reinforcing credibility. When addressing someone in a formal setting, using their name strategically signals confidence, commanding attention in a group. If you are speaking in a meeting and want to re-engage someone, saying their name pulls them back into the discussion, softening difficult conversations. If you need to deliver criticism or have a tough discussion, using their name before a serious statement makes it feel more personal and less confrontational. Instead of saying, "I do not agree with that," say, "Michael, I see your perspective, but here's another way to look at it." This subtle shift makes the conversation more respectful, engaging, and persuasive. Instead of outright dismissing their opinion, you acknowledge them first, making the exchange feel more personal. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak." A Stoic approach to charm is about control and subtlety. Instead of forcing connections through excessive name-dropping, focus on quality over quantity. The right word, spoken at the right time, can create a moment that lingers far beyond the conversation itself. So the next time you are in a conversation, resist the urge to overuse names. Instead, save them for moments that matter, where they reinforce respect, deepen connection, and leave a lasting impression. Most people believe they are good listeners, but the truth is, they are simply waiting for their turn to speak. Instead of truly hearing what the other person is saying, they are mentally preparing their response. This is why so many conversations feel shallow and disconnected. Real connection is not just about exchanging words. It is about making the other person feel heard and understood. People do not just want someone to nod along while they talk. They want to feel like what they are saying matters. The difference between hearing and listening. There is a big difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is passive. You recognize sounds, process words, and acknowledge sentences. Listening is active. It requires focus, presence, and engagement. We have all had conversations where someone nods at everything we say, yet we can tell they are not really paying attention. That does not feel like listening. It feels like being ignored. On the other hand, when someone truly listens, you can feel it. They are engaged. They react in real time. They ask thoughtful questions. They show that they are following along, not just waiting for their moment to talk. Active listening is more than just being quiet. A common misconception is that listening means staying silent and letting the other person talk. But silence alone does not make someone feel understood. Real listening involves engagement. Active listening includes nodding and reacting to show you are present and following along, echoing key points to reinforce understanding, asking thoughtful, follow-up questions to dig deeper into their thoughts and emotions. Instead of responding with a generic phrase like, "That sounds tough," try engaging with, "You mentioned you are struggling with this. What has been the hardest part for you?" This simple shift makes a huge difference. It shows that you are paying attention and invites them to share more, making them feel valued and understood. Why listening builds influence and trust. One of the rarest and most powerful skills in life is the ability to make people feel heard. The best leaders, influencers, and charismatic individuals understand this. They do not dominate conversations. Instead, they make others feel important by giving them space to express themselves. When you listen deeply, people trust you more because they feel safe opening up, see you as someone who genuinely cares. Not just someone waiting to talk. Form stronger connections. Whether in personal life, business, or social settings, in a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, the most powerful person is often the one who listens. Stoic wisdom on listening. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Stoicism teaches that self-control and awareness are key to mastering relationships. By truly listening instead of focusing on our response, we create better conversations, stronger bonds, and more meaningful interactions. Final thought. The next time you're in a conversation, ask yourself, am I truly listening? Or am I just waiting for my turn to talk? Mastering the art of listening is not just about being polite. It is about making others feel valued. And when you make people feel heard, you become someone they trust, respect, and remember. Most people stay in conversations too long because they fear appearing rude or uninterested. But the reality is, the longer you stay after a conversation has peaked, the less impact you leave. The most charismatic people do not just participate in conversations. They control their timing. They know exactly when to enter, engage, and most importantly, when to exit. The key is to leave while the energy is still high, ensuring you are remembered in a positive light. Why staying too long weakens your presence? Think about a great movie that ends at just the right moment. It leaves you satisfied but still thinking about it. Now compare that to a movie that drags on too long, making you lose interest before the final scene. The same logic applies to conversations. If you linger too long, the interaction starts to fade. The excitement dwindles, and what started as an engaging moment turns into awkward small talk. You risk losing the strong impression you made earlier. If you exit at the right time, people are left wanting more. They will associate you with the best parts of the conversation, not the slow, drawn-out ending. How to exit without it feeling abrupt. Many people struggle with ending conversations smoothly. They either wait too long, letting the conversation die out awkwardly, make an abrupt exit which feels cold or dismissive. The solution is to plant a callback moment, something that leaves the conversation open-ended and gives the other person a reason to reconnect with you later. Examples of smooth exits. This has been a great conversation. I would love to hear how that project turns out. Let's pick this up later. I have to run, but I have really enjoyed talking with you. Let's continue this next time. You made some great points today. I am curious to see how things play out. Keep me posted. Each of these exit lines leaves a sense of continuity. You are not just walking away. You are creating an expectation that the conversation will resume in the future. The power of controlling timing in conversations. In both personal and professional settings, those who control the timing of interactions control how they are perceived. In social settings, exiting while the energy is high makes you seem engaging and confident. In business, leaving on a strong note makes you seem intentional and busy, increasing your perceived value. In relationships, knowing when to step back prevents conversations from becoming repetitive or losing their spark. People tend to remember the beginning and end of an interaction the most. By mastering your exit, you ensure that their final memory of you is positive and impactful. Stoic wisdom on presence and exit timing. The Stoics valued self-awareness and control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculation about others. Instead, direct yourself to what is within your control." This applies perfectly to conversations. You cannot control how long someone wants to talk, but you can control when you leave. By choosing the right moment to exit, you take charge of your social presence and ensure your interactions remain meaningful. The next time you are in a conversation, pay attention to its peak. When you feel the energy is still strong, exit gracefully with a callback moment. You will leave a stronger impression, and people will look forward to speaking with you again. Mastering the art of exiting is not just about leaving. It is about leaving people with a lasting sense of curiosity and anticipation, ensuring they remember you long after the conversation is over. People want to feel valued, not just acknowledged. The difference between a surface-level connection and a meaningful one often comes down to something small, remembering the little details. Many people assume that big gestures like extravagant gifts or grand surprises are the best way to show appreciation. While those moments can be impactful, they are often fleeting. What truly makes someone feel special is when you recall the small, seemingly insignificant details about their life, things that most people overlook. Why small details matter more than big moments. Anyone can remember a birthday or an anniversary. Those dates are expected to be recognized. But it is the small things, their favorite coffee order, a book they casually mentioned wanting to read, or a personal challenge they are working through, that show a deeper level of attention. When you remember these little details, you send a powerful message. I am not just listening, I am paying attention. You are not just another person in my life. You are someone who matters. I care about the things that make you, you. This level of attentiveness creates a profound emotional imprint. It makes people feel genuinely seen and valued in a way that most interactions do not. How to apply this in everyday conversations? Remembering small details does not require an extraordinary memory. It just requires active listening and intention. Examples of small details that make a big impact. You mentioned you love that coffee shop. Did you try their new blend last time we talked? You were looking for a new book to read. Did you find one? I remember you said you were nervous about your presentation. How did it go? You told me you were getting into running. Have you been able to stick with it? These small moments show that you were paying attention, even when they thought you were not. And because so few people do this, it immediately makes you stand out. How remembering small details strengthens relationships in professional settings. Recalling small details can build strong business relationships. If a client casually mentions they are a huge fan of a particular sports team, remembering to bring it up in your next meeting builds rapport effortlessly. In friendships and romantic relationships, it deepens emotional bonds. If your partner mentions a childhood favorite snack, surprising them with it weeks later means more than any expensive gift, because it shows genuine care. In networking and social settings, it makes you unforgettable. People do not just remember how interesting you were. They remember how you made them feel, and being seen is one of the deepest human needs. The psychological effect of being remembered. Most of us go through life feeling somewhat invisible. We are constantly surrounded by distractions, social media, endless to-do lists, and the busyness of everyday life. When someone remembers a small detail about us, it breaks through the noise. It tells us, you are important. You are not just another face in the crowd. This is why the best leaders, influencers, and connectors do this instinctively. They know that a well-placed small detail can create a lasting emotional impact that people will associate with them for years. Stoic wisdom on paying attention to the small things. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Kindness does not always have to be a grand gesture. Sometimes the purest form of kindness is simply remembering. In a world where most people only half listen, The act of truly paying attention is a gift. Small details create deep connections. They turn casual acquaintances into close friends, colleagues into trusted allies, relationships into something meaningful. If you want to stand out and leave a lasting impression, do not just focus on the big milestones. Focus on the little moments that make people feel truly seen. Because at the end of the day, it is not about how much you do. It is about how much you make people feel like they matter. Vulnerability is one of the most powerful ways to build trust and create deep connections. When done right, it makes you more relatable, human, and approachable. However, without control, it can backfire, making you appear weak, overly emotional, or even attention-seeking. The key to using vulnerability effectively is balance. Share enough to make others feel safe opening up, but not so much that you lose authority. Why vulnerability is a double-edged sword. Many people believe that being vulnerable means being completely open, sharing every personal struggle or insecurity to build deeper relationships. While honesty is important, uncontrolled vulnerability can do more harm than good. If you share too much too soon, it can make people uncomfortable or seem like you are seeking sympathy. If you reveal deep insecurities too frequently, people may start to view you as unstable or lacking confidence. If you are vulnerable without context, it may not strengthen relationships but instead create unnecessary emotional weight. In contrast, strategic vulnerability, where you share personal stories with purpose and control, makes you relatable without diminishing your credibility. How to use vulnerability the right way. The best way to frame vulnerability is through growth and lessons learned, rather than just struggles. Example, instead of saying, "I have always struggled with confidence," say, "There was a time I was not as confident, but I learned that preparation and experience can change that." The second version keeps the authenticity of the struggle, but presents it as a lesson rather than an ongoing issue. It makes you human without making you seem weak. This is especially important in leadership and professional settings. If a leader constantly shares their doubts and struggles without direction, it can make their team lose confidence in them. But when they share past challenges along with a solution or insight, it makes them more inspiring. Why controlled vulnerability commands. Respect people do not respect those who appear fragile and uncertain, but they do respect those who have faced challenges and overcome them. This is why the best leaders use vulnerability in a strategic way. They do not hide their mistakes or failures, but they share them with a sense of ownership and wisdom. Strategic vulnerability in leadership builds trust because it shows authenticity, inspires others by demonstrating resilience and growth, encourages openness by creating a safe space for others to share. For example, if you are leading a team and want to encourage innovation, admitting a past failure, along with what you learned, can make it easier for others to take risks without fear. Example, instead of saying, "I have failed so many times in my career, it is frustrating," say, "Early in my career, I made mistakes that taught me the importance of preparation. Those lessons helped me avoid bigger problems later." Again, the difference is in how you present the story. You are not just opening up about failure. You are showing how you turned it into wisdom. The social impact of controlled vulnerability. Beyond leadership, controlled vulnerability plays a crucial role in social interactions and relationships. When done right, it creates deeper conversations. Because people feel safe sharing their own struggles, more trust because you are showing honesty and self-awareness, greater connection because people relate to real experiences, not perfection. But if done wrong, it can lead to emotional exhaustion, where people feel overwhelmed by too much information, loss of influence, where people no longer see you as strong or capable, shallow sympathy instead of deep respect, Stoic wisdom. On vulnerability and strength, the Stoics believed in emotional control while also embracing the reality of human struggle. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Stoicism teaches that acknowledging hardships is not weakness. Instead, it is how we process and present them that defines our strength. A Stoic approach to vulnerability means being honest about struggles but never letting them define you. Vulnerability is a tool, not an identity. Use it to connect, not to seek validation. Share your struggles but always frame them as lessons. In both leadership and relationships, people respect those who are strong enough to admit their imperfections, but wise enough to show growth and resilience. People love to talk about themselves. Whether they admit it or not, everyone enjoys the feeling of being heard and understood. The more someone shares about their thoughts, dreams, and experiences, the more they feel connected to the person who is listening. This is why asking deep, thought-provoking questions is one of the easiest ways to build meaningful relationships. But the real secret is not just in asking these questions. It is in how you handle them when they are turned back on you. Why deep questions work so well. When you ask someone a question that goes beyond small talk, you give them the opportunity to open up in a way they rarely do. This creates an emotional connection because they associate that moment of openness with you. For example, instead of asking something generic like, "What do you do for work?" ask something deeper. What is something you have always wanted to do but never had the chance? This shifts the conversation from surface level to personal and meaningful. It makes people pause and reflect, which in turn makes them remember the conversation more vividly. How to maintain control of the conversation. The key to mastering this technique is not always answering when the question is turned back on you. If you immediately reveal too much about yourself, you shift the spotlight away from them. Instead, you want to keep them talking and create a sense of intrigue. Example. Conversation you. What is a moment in your life that changed everything? Them. They share their experience. Them. What about you? Oh, I have a few, but tell me more about yours first. What made that moment so impactful for you? This simple redirection keeps the conversation centered on them, while also making you seem intriguing. People naturally become curious about those who do not reveal everything right away. If they press you to answer, you can share just enough to keep them engaged, but not so much that you dominate the conversation. Example you. That is a great question. One moment for me was when I took a risk that completely changed my perspective on life. But honestly, I love hearing about other people's turning points. So tell me, what did you learn from that experience? The psychology behind this approach. This tactic works because people feel valued when they are given space to talk about themselves. By withholding just enough, you create a sense of mystery. People walk away from the conversation feeling good because they got to share. When someone talks about themselves at length, they leave the interaction thinking, "I really enjoyed that conversation." But in reality, they mostly enjoyed talking about themselves. The person who asked the deep questions and listened attentively will be remembered as interesting, even if they barely shared anything. The power of being slightly mysterious. Most people instinctively answer questions right away because they fear seeming distant. But the truth is, the most captivating people reveal themselves slowly. Think about the most charismatic people you know. They probably ask engaging questions, listen deeply, share about themselves in small, intriguing doses. This makes them memorable and desirable. When people do not get all the answers at once, their curiosity keeps them thinking about you long after the conversation ends. How this applies in different social settings. In networking, you become someone people gravitate toward because you make them feel important. In dating, you create an air of mystery that makes people want to know more about you. In leadership, you make others feel heard while maintaining a strong, composed presence. Stoic wisdom on holding back. The Stoics believed that self-control and restraint were key to strong relationships. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you cannot control." By not always answering every question, you practice control over the conversation. You choose what to share and when, rather than feeling pressured to reveal everything immediately. Asking deep questions makes people feel special. Holding back just enough makes you intriguing. Master this balance, and you will become someone people cannot stop thinking about. Beyond attention and recognition, people crave something deeper: belonging. It is one of the most fundamental human needs, shaping our relationships, confidence, and overall happiness. Feeling included is not just about being noticed. It is about feeling like we truly matter in a group, relationship, or community. The most charismatic people understand this. They do not just make others feel special. They make them feel like they belong. Why belonging is more powerful than recognition. Many people think that making others feel good is about giving them attention, compliments, eye contact, remembering their name. While these things help, they are not enough. Recognition is temporary. It makes someone feel good in the moment. Belonging is lasting. It makes someone feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves. People do not just want to be acknowledged as individuals. They want to be connected to others. When someone walks into a room, they are not just wondering, "Do people see me?" They are asking, "Do I fit in here?" When you help someone feel like they belong, you give them one of the most rare and powerful social gifts. How to make people feel like they belong. The secret to creating belonging is inclusion. Actively bringing people into conversations, groups, and shared experiences. One of the simplest yet most effective ways to do this is through introductions. The way you introduce someone can completely shape how they feel in a social setting. Instead of a basic introduction like, "This is Alex," try making it more engaging and inclusive. "This is Alex. He's got some crazy travel stories. You two would get along." This does two things. It immediately makes Alex feel valued and interesting. It gives the other person a reason to connect with Alex, making the conversation flow naturally. Other ways to create belonging in social situations bring up shared interests. If you know two people have something in common, highlight it to help them bond. Acknowledge contributions. When someone shares an idea or insight, validate it in front of others. This makes them feel respected and included. Encourage participation. If someone seems hesitant to join a conversation, ask for their thoughts in a way that makes them feel invited rather than put on the spot. Example: Emma, you mentioned before that you love hiking. Mark just got back from a trip to the mountains. You guys should talk about that. These small moments make a huge difference. They shift a person's experience from feeling like an outsider to feeling connected. The most charismatic people create community. Charismatic people do not just make individuals feel good. They create an environment where everyone feels part of something bigger. This is why some people naturally become the center of social circles. They are not just charming one-on-one. They build a sense of unity wherever they go. They make people feel like they are part of a group. They are included in conversations. They have something valuable to contribute. This applies in personal, social, and professional settings. Whether you are at a party, in a workplace, or leading a team, the ability to create belonging is a powerful leadership skill. The psychology of inclusion studies in psychology show that social exclusion activates the same brain regions as physical pain. This means that feeling left out is not just uncomfortable. It is deeply painful on a neurological level. Conversely, feeling included releases dopamine and oxytocin, the same chemicals that create feelings of happiness and trust. When you actively include people, you are not just being nice. You are triggering a biological response that makes them feel good and associate those positive emotions with you. Stoic wisdom on belonging and human connection. The Stoics believed that human beings are interconnected. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings no benefit to the bee." In other words, our personal success is linked to the well-being of the people around us. By making others feel like they belong, we strengthen not only our relationships, but also the environment we exist in. If you want to leave a lasting impression, do not just make people feel seen, make them feel like they are part of something greater. Create connections, build bridges, be the person who brings people together. Because in the end, people will not just remember what you said or did, they will remember how you made them feel, and if you make them feel like they truly belong, they will never forget you. Charm is not just about being likable. It is about creating moments that stick with people long after the conversation ends. Most assume charm is about saying the right things, having a smooth personality, or knowing how to work a room. But real charm, the kind that makes you unforgettable, is about how you make people feel. It is not about impressing others with clever words. It is about making them feel valued, heard, and connected. By mastering these 7 habits, you will not only elevate your charisma, but also deepen your relationships in ways that truly matter. The 7 habits of true charm use names with intention, to make people feel recognized without overusing them. Listen to understand, not just to respond, because true connection comes from making others feel heard. Master the art of exiting conversations at the right moment, leaving people wanting more. Remember the little details to show genuine care and attention. Be vulnerable, but with control, using personal stories to build trust without losing credibility. Ask deep questions but do not always answer them, creating intrigue and making others feel important. Make people feel like they belong, because true charm is not about being admired. It is about making others feel included. The real secret to charm. People may forget your words, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That is the true key to being charismatic. It is not about being the loudest or the most entertaining person in the room. It is about leaving a lasting emotional impact on the people you interact with. So, start applying these habits today and watch how people respond to you differently. If you found this valuable, make sure to follow the channel for more insights on mastering social influence, confidence, and connection. Do not just watch, level up your presence today. Auto scroll is free, so stick around for more. See you in the next one.